friends. This is Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth. And this is an emotional journey podcast that follows along through multimedia, music, and movies. And we talk about how we feel about those things.
This is our part 2 to A Knight's Tale. We're kind of excited about having a two-parter.
We're excited about the fact that we talked for 2.5 or 3 hours about a movie, which has a lot going on, despite the fact that we probably could see it as maybe
kind of a silly movie.
A silly, shallow movie, but it's really not when you look at
No.
it. It seemed like that when we were younger.
It did seem like that. But it's such a deep movie. There's so much to it. And again, with the anachronisms, it has that, but they have so much reality based in this fantasy fiction. It's just such a great movie, and I think it's underappreciated.
Right. So where are we picking up, and then we will go into the actual part.
We left off on discussing the party, the dance.
Okay. Well, let's get back into that.
Awesome. So they got permission from David Bowie to not only use the song in the dance, but to split the track. It's definitely one of my favorite scenes in the movie, and I know it's a favorite scene of a lot of people, but it's just a free moment. Like, you can see them going from that medieval, very straight-laced sway to the music, stepping, side-by-side dancing, and then when the actual Bowie beat comes in and you start to hear Golden Years, the dancing just changes and it's more modern, kind of free and flowing, and it's just, it's beautiful. It's a great scene.
Yeah, and again, this is where the music pulls you in.
Definitely pulls you in.
Because it's that there's the familiar, and that's what makes you part of the film.
Oh, yeah.
So that you can, it's jarring every time for me.
Yeah.
Much like there's a lot of instances in film now where you can see that, where it takes you out by playing music that doesn't fit. It's definitely an anachronistic key, if you will. And, there's a lot of music in this that is just mind-blowing that they got it to fit into this.
Oh, yeah.
And the way they do it is so blatant.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And that they're active participants in the music really throws it off. But I have yet to see an electric guitar anywhere.
I know. But with that, the thing about Golden Years is that one is different in the sense that it starts out
right
time period.
Unlike the
and
others.
you listen to it, and I remember watching that the first time, thinking to myself, well, this now doesn't fit in because all of the other songs are modern songs, modern-ish songs, 70s songs. And so how it is all of a sudden, and then I heard it. First you hear the strings, you hear the lute or whatever, but you don't recognize it at first. And then you hear, wait a minute, I know that song. And then you hear the actually starts to build, and then you're like, oh, it's Golden Years. Okay, I get it now. And yeah, it really works. And again, that's one of those parts that I feel is done very, very well with the music.
Right. So this is the point where Jocelyn makes a demand.
Yes, because she really does. She likes him, but he's not, like, she's not sure how much he likes her. And I think, like, it's like one of those, I like him, she likes me, I like him, and then I like her, but they don't know because no one talks to each other how much they actually like each other. So we're going to have to.
I think in this case, I understand why she is that way.
Mm-hmm.
She's protective because these are a bunch of men, a bunch of knights. They're all competitive. And that competitiveness brings in that need to dominate.
Yes.
And to win at all costs. I completely understand. I did not before. I did not years ago. I was like, why is she making these demands?
Yeah.
But she says, I want you to lose.
See, and I get why she's making the demands. It's just not something I could do to another person. I myself could not, regardless of my feelings, regardless of my questioning their feelings or loyalty or whatever, I feel it's such a like monumentously dick move to make somebody lose something that they're passionate about, regardless of socioeconomic stature or anything like that. It's just, to me, just shitty. Just to go and say to somebody, you love this, but do you love me more? How insecure do you have to feel about yourself to put that type of an ultimatum on somebody? And again, this is my personal opinion that I know I personally could not do to somebody. I couldn't say, you can't blah, 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 or I want you to do something like this. That would, something, especially if it's a thing that you have a passion for your whole entire life. And I'm coming into this and I am insecure in my feelings for you. So I'm asking you to lose something. Yes, I understand her situation and her position. It's just, it makes me feel ick because I couldn't do that to somebody. But that's me again.
This isn't really about what I could do or not do to someone.
Again, I understand why.
I see the character's reasons for doing what she did.
I get angry about this in all TV shows, movies, books, whatever. I feel it's a shitty move. I know it's a thing.
A lot of Dark Age, where they say Dark Age, they mean medieval.
Yeah.
A lot of these things have the tasks that you have to follow, or Greek mythologies.
The mythologies.
Yeah, you have tasks that have to be done to prove yourself in some way. For her, this is a way to find out how serious he is about it, because they're there to win. Mm-hmm. She doesn't want to be a trophy for them.
Yeah.
So if he is truly there, if he truly cares about her, the only way for her to really know that is he willing to lose to win her? Mm-hmm. And I think that there are a lot of ways that it could have been done. Him sitting on his horse, fully armored, with the weapon in hand, with the lance, is a way to lose that I think is probably the most telling. Because he's saying, I am fully capable, and I'm making a choice not to. And he takes hit after hit. Mm-hmm. That to me is a huge tell. It is a huge way in which William shows that he's not Ulrich.
True.
He is showing the boy. He's showing the love of a person and not a title to be won.
True.
So I think that this is very telling. I think this is part of what drives the story, because she would not have loved him enough to leave the life she knew if she wasn't absolutely certain, and that was a very good way to find out.
Well, I think if I was to ever put that type of an ultimatum on somebody, it would be if they didn't bring me a little surprise after they've gone shopping.
Oh my God. You saw the TikTok.
I saw the TikTok. Look it up. It's funny.
I think that was a very good scene. A lot of balsa wood lost on that one. And then linguine afterwards. I'm sure they got the lasagna noodles
at some point.
Having to tape it up.
All that biscotti.
All that biscotti on the floor. The rats ate well. So when he loses, she sends her handmaiden to him while they're arguing in the tent. Mm-hmm.
Because she's watching it, him losing, getting his ass handed to him, and she keeps like hiding behind stuff because she's like, it's painful to watch.
She let it go on for a long time.
She really did.
I mean, thematically, we can see that these are a lot of cut scenes where he's getting hit. So this must have gone on for a while.
A bit.
And he is hurt. He is in the tent. They are trying to make his arm feel better. They're talking to him like, you've got to do something.
Yeah.
And they're ready to lose, but they're upset. And he's trying to explain why he's doing it.
Yeah, I think his arm was dislocated, and they were trying to put it back. And
Right.
yeah, and he's like, "I did it because she asked me not to she asked me to lose." And he's like, "You jerk," like
and
wrenches
I
his
keep
arm.
wanting to say wash. What?
What?
Is turning the screws.
Yeah, to straighten his arm back out
or his finger out or something.
Whatever. Yeah,
I don't know. Or something that's dislocated.
It was a torture device, needless to say.
And so she comes in, and the handmaiden says, now she wants you, if you love her, she wants you to win and to not lose this tournament.
And he's like, thank God.
Well, no, he's like, and they're like, so what are you going to do? He goes, they ask like how he felt about it or something. He goes, I hate her. And he puts his helmet on.
How do you feel about your love now? He's like, I hate her.
Yeah, so he's mad. Well, he still loves her, but he's frustrated by the turnabout.
Yeah, it just smacks of mind games, and maybe that's what it is for me.
Well, and afterwards they get into a fight.
Yeah, it really
because
he does get stupid.
Well, he does.
Yeah,
he's frustrated, and he's kind of taking it out on her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. Well, I was actually thinking of even earlier on when he's talking to her, and she's like kind of feeling the waters out with him, and he keeps talking about pious, not pious women, but proper women. And he's like kind of doing.
Because he's trying to recreate what he thinks a knight would say.
He is, and she's going, ew, ew. That's not what I want.
The biggest thing that he did, the worst thing that he did, was the one thing she didn't want him to do, and which is to promise to win a tournament for her.
Yeah,
that's the thing that just made her back off.
Yeah.
That was during the scene where they're in the church and she's looking at the stained glass.
Yeah.
And she says, it's a rite of colors. And she asks him to tell her how he feels.
Yeah.
And he starts giving her the bro lines.
Yeah, and that's when she's
like, well, no, I want the poetry that you wrote me in the letters. Now, keep in mind,
the poetry wasn't from him.
After the fight they had, the poetry that he was writing her many letters.
Yes.
This is before they got to Paris.
But the letters were actually...
Well, the letters are dictated, but he did some. But a lot of them, and I actually liked this. I thought this was good. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it was dishonest. Is that his friends were telling him their stories, their love, and he was writing down their words. Mm-hmm. Now, yes, it's not his words, but they were giving his feelings the words.
Yeah.
I don't think he was dictating. I think he was putting in what he felt was
things that he reflected into so he saw his own thoughts in those words. So
he did come up with a few lines himself.
Yeah.
He had to think about it. Not everyone's gifted like Chaucer.
Yeah.
So he is taking from each one of his friends, who are in ways reflections of William himself. And their emotional responses are what he puts, or what are put into the letters, because I guess they're dictated. He's dictating them.
Yeah.
And he signs the last one, not with his name, not with Ulrich,
but with William.
Not with William either.
Oh no! How did I miss that?
Because he says it's the night of her heart.
Oh yeah.
So he's not assigning his identity to it. He's assigning his feelings to it. He is saying, I'm your champion, which is a pretty cool thing to do. And in that timeline, that would be...
Oh, definitely.
The thing to do is you're pledging your sword to your lady. And so that in that way, he is saying, I am a knight of your heart. I am the armor of your heart. That's what changes her mind. So she decides to come to Paris.
Yes.
That is where they get into this fight in the church. When I say a fight, that's what makes her kind of question what is going on here, because I wanted the poetry you gave me during these letters.
Yeah.
And he's asking, what do you want from me? It's a fairly atypical argument amongst men with women.
Particularly in that time period.
I would say in this time period where men don't voice their emotions.
They don't.
To women to explain how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times it's misconstrued that women are wanting them to be vulnerable. And that's not necessarily what any woman is asking.
My biggest frustration, and like I was saying, it's real life, it's fan fiction, it's books, it's TV, it's movies. Talk. If you don't talk, you don't know. And it's the lack of communication. And with men, and I'm not trying to generalize men, but they're raised to not talk. It's we tell them that they have to be strong, that they have to, again, not be vulnerable, but they're not understanding that talking about your feelings is not a vulnerability. It's actually a strength to be able to acknowledge your emotions and your feelings and how you really feel about a situation and what's in your heart or just any of your emotions. It's a strength to be able to do that, because even the people who know how to do it still don't do it enough. How many times do you and I assume what the other is feeling because we're not actually asking each other how we're feeling?
Oh, we do it quite a lot.
Quite a lot. So as much as it frustrates me, I still do it. I'm still just as guilty of it.
But we resolve it.
Yes.
By talking.
Yes, because either we'll say something or we'll blow up, but it takes a lot for us to blow up at each other.
We have a difference in the fact that we are not neurotypical.
Yes.
So
and baggage, lots of baggage.
But I assign a lot of things on a logical basis that doesn't follow along with a thematic emotional response.
And mine is all on trauma. So I respond that way.
And we do tend to view things in some fundamentally different ways. Mm-hmm. When I have expectations and they're not met, it throws me off. It makes me confused about what to expect, because I have learned through time, effort, and delineation to watch people and learn their mannerisms, mm-hmm. their responses, and I generate conversation trees in mm-hmm. my head. So I have these flowcharts in my head in which I am analyzing the conversation. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to either pre-generate them before I meet the person, or if I know them well enough, I am trying to generate them well ahead of the conversation.
Yes.
If it doesn't follow along with that, I get discombobulated. I am literally without a compass, and I'm grasping at anything to keep the conversation on track.
And that is very common in autism. And I see it on the daily in my classroom as well, where there is this, it's not a right or wrong way of thinking. It's just a line of thought of expectation. This is the way things normally go. So this is the way I expect them to go. So when things don't go in that way, whether it is also good, bad, or indifferent, it's going to cause an upheaval in the mind of the autistic individual. And again, keep in mind, I work with the severe guys, so we're going to have a meltdown. We might have somebody having a really anxious moment because, well, this didn't happen the way I was expecting it to happen. And now I don't understand why it's not happening this way. What's going on? And so, yeah, no, I understand that that's a line of thinking. And sometimes that can cause more frustration and also just a misconception of what's going on around you, where in my situation, I had learned that certain behaviors, certain mannerisms, certain tones of voice, certain facial expressions mean not necessarily good things are going to happen, or somebody's feeling a certain way towards you, or are angry at something that you did or didn't do, or I have a hang up about technology. I have a hang up with technology because not only do I spaz out on technology, I love technology. I want it to work, but I get very nervous about touching it. I get very nervous about turning things on I've never used before. I have had a brand new smart board in my classroom, a Promethean board, new line, beautiful piece of machinery. I only just found out I can use it to go onto the internet yesterday. I've had it for over a month. And that is because I don't touch technology unless somebody comes in and shows me how to use it beyond what I already know how to do. My ex would blame me for everything that went wrong in our house with technology, whether or not I touched it. So I have a hang up about it. In my head, if it breaks, what if something in our house goes wrong? What's the first thing I say? I wasn't near it. I didn't touch it. I didn't do it. Because that's my...
And I always have to assure you that wasn't the issue at all.
But that's my go-to. And it's like, because
what's wrong with the router? I didn't do it.
I don't know. I don't say I didn't do it because I have an issue with that word because I had students.
I know, but you're always like...
I wasn't. I'll say I don't know. I wasn't near it. I don't know. I haven't looked at it in a while, or I don't know because I haven't touched it in a while. But again, that's my hang up. So yes, we don't always communicate, but we communicate better, I think, than most. But the freaking thing that kills me about movies,
we communicate after the fact.
After the fact, but we still communicate. But movies and TV shows and books and stuff, I hate. The lack of communication.
Don't even get me started on Gilmore Girls.
Oh my God!
So there's a difference between speaking, talking, and communicating.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking is very passive.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens at you.
Yep.
Talking happens together.
Yep.
But you're not investing any emotion.
Could be about anything.
Communication
is the key.
Is the thing that has to be done. And in this case, they were not communicating.
They were not.
That's why they were fighting. This isn't about the romance because it didn't change their love for each other.
No, he was frustrated, she was frustrated, and neither one of them explained to the other what they were fully frustrated about, and it wasn't even about each other.
Right.
They were frustrated about the situations, they were frustrated about outside influences.
Well, keep in mind, he's still hiding who he is.
Exactly.
So... And she doesn't understand that, and he had to trust her enough to admit to her who he is, which does happen.
He does. And he is afraid to tell her who he really is. And it really, I think, is when it fully comes out is when they go to London.
Yes, absolutely.
So they go back to London, and they are all, and this is kind of, we get a little bit of his background as well. We know he came from a poor... Him and his father.
Well, they're on a ferry.
Yes. But I mean, before that, you knew his dad was poor.
Right.
And you knew that he wanted to be a knight and that there's a guy in the stocks when he's little and his dad puts him up on top of the stocks so he could watch the knights go by.
In the tourney.
Parade. And he says, I'm going to be a knight. And the guy in the stocks goes, oh, you can sooner change the stars. And that's how that kind of... that statement becomes a thing in their family is, maybe you can change the stars and maybe, you can become a knight. And so, but that's the only really background at that moment of him, is that he comes from a poor background.
Right.
So they take the ferry, they go to London, and the ferryman asks them how long it's been since they've been to London. And they all have, 6 months and how many years. And he says 12 years.
Right.
And then it flashes back to his dad bringing him to meet the knight.
On the very ferry that they're crossing right now.
Exactly. And Dad had said he hasn't been back to London in 7 years. And he goes to the knight. And I didn't write down the knight's name. I do know that the knight is the knight that...
Roland.
No, Roland is...
No, Roland's there, remember?
Yeah, Roland is there. But the knight is something with an E. Can't remember his name. I didn't write it down because I'm a chooch. But the knight is all... The name of the knight is the knight that was...
Sir Bobbert of Bobberton.
Arthur's... When Arthur, King Arthur, when he was a squire in the Sword and the Stone, it's the knight he was a squire for. It's like Elin or Eaton or something like that. I can't remember what
Eland's right.
I can't remember what it was because, again, I didn't write it down. I didn't think it was important at the moment. So he brings the dad.
I just want to say it was important.
Okay. It was important, but I did not know that.
I mean, we didn't know that then, but now we know.
Now we know.
And retroactively,
problem is sometimes
we can feel bad.
I think I'm going to write something down, and then I have an ooh shiny with another fact, write that down, and then forget.
Our emotions are what's needed on this podcast, not our facts.
Okay.
So we're going to do the best we can with the facts that we have, but we're really here to talk about our feelings about the film.
I know. I just always feel bad when I don't have all the information.
Yeah, but we're not here to be our archivists.
Because I have trauma.
I know. We all have it. Don't break my podcasting equipment by existing.
Yeah, well, don't be surprised when things don't go the way you expect them to.
And that's communication.
There we go.
Joking.
That's how it works, people.
We're just joshing peoples.
Just. Okay. So he brings his son to the knight and says, here he is. He's going to be a good squire. And the poor little guy, he's like, I don't know what the hell's going on.
The child actor, I don't know who he is
adorable. And
the mop of hair, but he's adorable.
He is. And the knight is he's being, he's going to be a hard ass, but he's also very kind. He could have been worse.
A kind and fair, almost fatherly figure.
He could have been worse. And you don't get that impression of him based on his dead body in the very beginning of the movie, because they're all like, he's dead. Like they're like, oh my God, because he had a gut injury. Right. And, but they were all, you just didn't get the impression you got the impression that they cared, but that he was kind of sloppy at that point. And yet this portrayal of him shows him in a different light.
I think that over time, he became less of the person he was when he met him. He
wasn't young when William went to him.
Right.
So by the time William is an adult, he's got to be, much older. And so, yeah. So there was definitely, a sloppiness. He probably had gotten a bit more lax in his training and maybe more into the drink or whatever.
That's the whole thing is with squires, they're to be trained.
Yes.
And not just to be squires, but to also take up arms. You give them basic training in these things.
And also they're the ones who you're going to be sparring with.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why William is good with swords.
Because he worked with.
But he should have known how to joust.
He should have.
Because that's who he'd be training with.
Yeah.
You have to get them good enough to make you good. And I think that is an indication of how sloppy the knight was.
I think so too.
So I was in the SCA, the Society for Creative Anachronisms, which is funny. I always love that title. But that is, we do reenactments, not reenactments, we kind of relive certain periods.
I almost joined the one in Texas, but
and we're all in different periods, so there are anachronisms that happen.
Yes.
We have Vikings alongside medieval knights and, stuff like that. And there's a lot of that going on, and there are a lot of these types of situations, which reminds me of this movie in which there are so many clashing anachronisms that happen. And you're like, oh, this reminds me of being at an SCA event where you're just seeing like a Viking walking by with, So in that sense, I get her clothing, I guess in a way. Yeah. Except it's very jarring just because of the coloring and the style of it is so misplaced and no one acknowledges it. That's weird.
And again, I don't know the history of fabrics, but organza that is used in her dance dress.
Right.
That, I don't know if that was a thing. Again, it could be.
I can't imagine.
I think that's what the fabric is called, organza. But is that I don't know. I do want to.
A lot of the coloring she uses wouldn't have been available.
I don't think so. And she has purple hair at one point. They have they had
purple is absolutely not something she'd have access.
No,
well, I don't know.
Well,
we don't know what her actual title is.
We don't know what her title is, and I don't know how much they were doing. Crocheted hair where they were braiding in pieces into other hair and.
But she was also wearing indigo at some point. That would not have been a thing they had.
No, I don't know. 1300s. I don't know. I'm not as much as I like history. I'm not I don't specialize in it enough to know
and
that
dyes?
stuff.
You don't know about dyes and fabrics?
You know what I know about dyes and fabrics?
They happen?
The scene at the end of Ever After, when they fall in the dye vats.
Yeah.
And that's another movie we need to add to the list, because, yes.
Well, again, this movie was not supposed to be historically accurate. That wasn't the point of it. The point of it was to get across those themes that reflect, I think, the basic intention of The Knight's Tale.
Yes.
The basic intention is that love can conquer a lot of things, and that class, while in The Knight's Tale is not an issue, in this, it reflects respect.
It does.
So when we're talking about how Jocelyn feels towards William, or how Watt eventually comes to like Chaucer, or how Jocelyn starts becoming part of the group weirdly.
Yeah.
With his friends, she becomes friends with his friends.
Which wouldn't have happened because technically in that kind of a hierarchy, they would have been below her.
Right.
To even be friends.
They would have been below him because he was playing a knight. And that's one of the things that tips it off during the film is people notice how they're reacting to each other.
Mm-hmm. That they call each other out and that they stand up to him and say things to him, which they wouldn't do that if they were real squire knight, situation.
Right.
So when he's little, the one other thing he says is Dad's leaving now. So he's like,
I'm sorry, I did jump around.
It's okay, but this is an important little saying, otherwise I wouldn't have said anything. Is Dad's leaving again on the ferry, and little William runs over and he goes, but how will I find, I'm afraid I won't, he goes, I'm afraid. And he goes, of what? And he goes, how will I find my way home? That I won't be able to find my way home. And he said, follow your feet. And that comes into, later on, that gets said when he does see his dad again.
Because they are back in London now.
Yes.
And he is riding in the rain.
Well, they have the parade of
they have the parade,
all the knights, and everyone's going, oh, Rick. They're all there for him.
And he sees a kid up on the stocks.
On the stocks, and it kind of, he flashes to it being himself back up on the stocks, and then he sees the little guy, and it kind of startles him for a second, because you can see he's uneasy being back in London. Which when they pan and they show that big skyline.
Well, he thinks his father died.
He does think his father died because he doesn't know what.
So he's coming back to a place where he doesn't have family.
Exactly, and possibly he could be recognized.
It's possible, yeah.
And
although
that was the impression I got.
He was a very small child. I don't know that he necessarily cared about that so much as he felt probably displaced because he's coming back to a place which only ever saw him or didn't see him at all.
Well, and I think that's probably what really was going through his mind. But when I watched it, when I was just, when it first came out, I thought he was afraid of being recognized. But now looking back, I see that it was, it was that coming back to thinking he had nothing in this town again. That it was memories and
sadness.
Yeah.
There's some sadness there because he thinks he's lost his, his father's not going to be there. You're coming back to your hometown in which you literally have no one there to come home to.
Exactly.
And he's going to see the same old streets and stuff like that. And yeah, he's going through the parade. And then afterwards,
he goes, he's riding in the rain, like you were saying.
Right.
And he's in Cheaptown.
Right. Which is, and he's just in Cheaptown. And there's a child sitting on a barrel.
And she's got like a little small lance.
Like it's the foam finger,
or like when you get the little mini baseball bat at the baseball games. Yeah,
it's a favor it's a toy for the children for the tourney. Everything in this movie is positioned a lot. These tourneys are positioned a lot like a sporting event.
Yeah,
like Super Bowl style, that type of thing.
And he starts talking to the little girl, and she recognizes him as Sir Ulrich of Sir Ulrich von Liechtenstein of Gelderland. And I didn't say the full title earlier.
That's true.
So he's like, I could tell you a secret. And he gets off his horse and he sits next to her and he's like, I used to live around the corner. I was born here.
Right
and she
over
goes,
there.
And she goes, oh, I live blah, 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 blah. And he says, oh, well, you probably don't remember, because he asks her how old she is. And she was like 9½ years old. And he's like, I don't think you would remember, but there used to be a gentleman who lived over there. And she's like, oh, yeah, we know him. We think it's odd that he looks out the window. And he's like, well, what does that mean? And she said, oh, he's blind. So he goes to this man's house, and it is his dad. And his dad is definitely blind, and he is working on fixing a net. And he hears him, and he thinks that that's a person who is trying to get, who he was fixing the net for, and he doesn't respond. And then eventually that William says, I'm, the knight Sir Ulrich. And his dad looks at him, obviously not looking at him. He
faces him.
He faces him. It's a good word. It's a better way of saying that. And he starts to, ask him questions about his, why is he there? And then he's like, William,
I have word from your son.
Yeah, he says, I have word from your son. And he says he does. And he says, he said that he figured out how to change his stars. And then the father is starting to put the points
pieces together,
and he's getting it, and he goes, did he follow his feet? And he goes, he followed, yes, he did, and he knew that was his son. So of course they hug and they end up spending the evening talking and having a good time, but it's raining still.
And it's very emotional because you can see the father is, this actor, he did a great job.
He almost didn't get credited.
What?
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't write his name down.
Oh my God,
you
didn't get credited.
I didn't give him credit. But yeah, he almost did not get credit for the role of William's father, and that was kind of crappy, in my personal opinion. But yeah, you can see that he did such a great job with reacting and the emotions of finding your child again after all these years.
All right. So the actor's name, the one that played John Thatcher, William's father, is Christopher Kazanov.
I think that's what it. Yeah.
That is the man's name.
And yeah.
Why was he not?
No, he was credited, but he almost wasn't credited. The director of the movie insisted he get credit for the role because he almost did not get credit for the role.
I don't understand why he wouldn't have gotten credit.
I don't know either. I just know that that's what the trivia said, was he almost did not get credit for the role, but the director fought for it and got it.
Maybe, I don't know, because he had a speaking part.
Yeah, I know.
That's weird. Anyway, he did a great job.
He really did.
You could see his face transform. He is crying with joy.
The understanding of who is standing in front of him dawns on him, and you can see all of that going across his facial features.
He does a very stereotypical blind man's facial thing.
Still, though, I mean...
But other than that...
Yeah.
Because, they I don't know why they think blind people can't see some things. Or why they think that they can't direct their heads where they need to. People really do have a misconception of how blind people operate, and to the varying degrees of blindness. Just want to put that out there.
And because you have a relative who is blind, so you know this from firsthand knowledge. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just weird. It'd be like me. I have deaf people in my family as well. They're all cousins. Mm-hmm. And, they all operate at the same or better level than I do, but they do it differently. And I do it differently than everybody else in my family. So we're just different. Mm-hmm. But as far as like his acting, it's the facial expression. Yes. And this the fact that you can see him go from when he's worried that his son has died. for that split instant.
Yeah, because he's like, I got word on your son, and he's like, oh shit,
You get that concern on his face, then you have that look of joy that it just transforms him.
Yes, totally.
I think he just did a marvelous job there. I'm sorry, these are little things. I mean, I get enthralled by, the insurance actor guy.
The Liberty guy?
Yeah, the Liberty insurance guy.
With the wax figure.
When people put their heart into a part, it doesn't matter how small that part is, I am always entranced by it. Mm-hmm. And that's a word we don't use enough in life, entranced. Mm-hmm. I think we should find something probably daily to be entranced by. And you should be able to find that easily. And if you can't find something to be entranced by on a daily basis, maybe change your life a little bit to where you can find that. I get entranced by those little things, like the father's face changing in emotion, where I can feel it, which I normally would not.
Yeah.
And the Liberty guy being freaked out that his wax figure is melting.
Honest to God, there's I have a whole list of actors and actresses who I feel are underappreciated. They are fantastic. They can portray emotion or lack of emotion, or just they put everything into their characters, and I feel they're just not appreciated by the greater population because either they don't know who they are, or they've just not been given the chance to do anything super mainstream, where more of the population would get to see them, so they could become I hate this, the Tom Cruises or the Al Pacinos or the Roberta or the Julia Roberts and things like that. The people who people know. Jensen Ackles. And I'm not saying this because I'm a huge Supernatural fan. I'm saying this because he embodies, when he is doing Dean Winchester, super, super emotional, hating on himself, dealing with his daddy issues, and that he puts everything into that character. You believe that he has actually gone through all of the abuse that character has gone through. So I feel like, good.
I don't think he's underrated because a lot of people know him from not just that, but also The Boys.
But even then, he's not really able to do that on The Boys. He's not giving you that depth of a character, I feel.
I mean, they are all characterizations on that show.
But so people know him from that. But
hard to be deeper on that.
But they may not go back and see him on Supernatural. So they'll know The Boys, but they're not going to know that he's good enough to be in a really good drama.
So let's just add this.
Yeah, sorry.
No, let's just add this in.
Yeah.
What if we take a moment? This is just off the cuff. We haven't discussed this. What if we take a moment during every episode, just a few minutes, and you find an actor and we highlight that actor? Okay. Doesn't have to be part of what we're doing at all.
Okay.
We find an actor, highlight it, why you think they're special, and the things that people can find them in.
Okay.
Let's just do that. Because again, big time actor for us means fully invested in their character, being good at what they do.
Oh, yeah.
Being good at their craft. It does not mean they are A-list celebrities. It means they care and they put that care into their characters.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the fact that his wife would always have to tell him that Dean, if he would say, she would ask him a question or do something, and he would answer as Dean, not intentional, when she would say, Dean needs to go.
Because he's invested in the character and he's thinking about it then.
Yeah. So it's raining in Michael Thatcher's house, and the roof is leaking. And
Thatcher.
He's a Thatcher.
But
he's a blind Thatcher. So now what you notice, and I don't know if you noticed it, but when he goes to talk to the little girl, there's a woman in the background. And she kind of looks, but then the scene changes and he shows him talking to the little girl and him going to the house.
I did not notice the woman. I always get drawn into the conversation with the little girl, and she's adorable.
She is.
So I'm always entranced by Heath Ledger talking to this little girl. So I don't even think about what's in the background.
And he goes, he's like, well, I'm going to fix the roof because I'm a Thatcher. And he goes up onto the roof to help his dad. And it shows, Rufus Sewell standing there with the woman pointing over towards the window, and he sees William climbing out of the window, and apparently that tells him everything he needs to know.
It tells him he's a thatcher because he's thatching.
As opposed to, any other proof that he might just be a guy helping another person do a thing. Because God forbid a knight dirty his hands by helping somebody who is helpless. 'Cause fuck you.
So his character is the archetypal knight, okay? And very classist, very much set in who he is and who everyone else should be.
Yes.
And while all this was happening before they got to London, he actually went to war. He was on a campaign. And so he wasn't in the tournaments, and he was seeing William, or Ulrich, winning these tournaments. And he's very frustrated. He's on a battlefield and getting the news handed to him on paper, which is pretty funny because it's all
written out,
Yeah, handwritten and drawn.
With illuminations.
Yes. And so he's not a flounce. He's not a court dandy.
No.
He is an actual knight who goes into battle. He doesn't just do tournaments.
Yeah.
So you get the idea. You get the sense that the man is not to be trifled with, and he's about winning over life and death, so he's definitely going to try to win this.
Yeah.
So when he sees weakness, which for him
stomps on it.
Which for him is, he doesn't even have to prove it. He just puts in the little bit of doubt. He just says he's not who he says he is.
And why wouldn't anybody believe him? He's a knight. He fought in the war.
And he's well known.
Yeah, so...
Whereas William, or Ulrich, is not well known. He's a knight from the distant lands.
Oh, the Gelderland. Where is the Gelderland? It is in the Netherlands.
Yeah, so it's far away from them, like 5 miles.
Yeah, it's over there.
5 miles is a long ways in Europe.
When you gotta walk, yeah. So, yeah, and it shows him getting ready the next day. And then everybody with Jocelyn, and it was Jocelyn and Chaucer.
Both.
Come up to him, and they're like, you need to run. They know. And then that's basically when Jocelyn kind of knows.
And it sucks because they're coming up on a scene where they're all talking and like they're in a good mood. He's in a good mood.
Yeah, he got to see his dad.
I know, he's feeling exuberant and he's talking about his dad. He's talking about his visit. And so he's feeling good about where he is, that he's got his dad is alive, he's back, and he's going to make his father proud. You can tell that's what's going through his head. And his friends are there talking with him animatedly. Mm-hmm. He's leaning on Joyce. Got it? Or not Joyce, Kate. I don't want to say Joyce. Jocelyn.
Jocelyn.
Kate. He's leaning on Kate, who's putting his armor on. By the way, when Alan Tudyk puts your armor on, maybe train him first to where he knows actually how to handle straps, because he does these adjustments early in the film where he kind of does the TV show adjustments, like with like, I want to adjust this robot with this screwdriver, and they just kind of stick it in and kind of turn. Yeah, and they're not actually doing anything. That's what he did to the straps on his.
I'm gonna smoke this cigarette, but I'm actually not going to inhale.
I know.
Yeah, that kind of level of...
He does this, like, he just touches the straps. Doesn't even really touch them, just puts his hands behind. Yeah. So where the camera can't see. That's what he did.
It's stage acting.
Kate, on the other hand, knows how to handle the straps on the armor at the very least, because you can see she's actually touching stuff. Yes. So it's just kind of funny. But anyway, so they're talking animatedly, and you hate this. I hate this part so much, because when they come in and they don't want to tell them. Mm-hmm. And when Chaucer, Jeffrey, we call him Jeff because we love Jeff. Jeff. When Jeff comes up to him and he says, they know, his face falls. And it falls in almost the exact way his father's face fell when he thought his son was dead.
That was very good casting, because they do look familial.
Yeah, they have similar bone structure.
Yes. Unlike
facial,
the Winchester brothers.
Unlike the Winchester brothers. Moose. And Squirrel. So his face falls, and very much as the way his father's face fell.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that was something they intended, but Heath Ledger,
did it.
He hit that right on the head. And I can't just say Heath. You have to say Heath Ledger. It's one of those things where you just have to use both names.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even think his family
there's some
uses
actors
Heath.
and actresses who go by one name, Cher. And then there's some actors and actresses where you have to say the full name.
Alan Tudyk. Heath Ledger. Mark Addy.
Mm-hmm.
Can't say Mark.
You have to say Mark Addy. It's going to be Mark Addy.
Love that man. He's adorable.
I want to watch Full Monty again.
He's a big cuddle bear. I just love that man. Anyway, so this is a hard part for me. I don't like it because this is where we get into that whole class thing.
Yes.
Where he is completely, no one asks him at all.
No.
They take the word. Now, of course he's lying. Of course he is, but his actions mean more than the class he's in.
But nobody asked him.
At all.
And nobody said, okay, well, here are the accusations against you. Is this true? Can you prove? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Because that's really what should have been done. Granted, yes, 1300s.
But it makes a moment happen that needed to happen, I think.
Yes.
And this is a lovely moment. This is a beautiful moment. Well, there are a couple.
Yes.
So they go, he has this argument with Jocelyn, who wants to run. They all, in turn, tell him to run.
They're ready. They're getting stuff ready. And he's like, no.
But he doesn't want to run. Not because he wants to win. He doesn't want to run because it's not right. Because he is a knight, and he says it repeatedly, I'm a knight. And what he's saying is that I am royalty. He is not saying that this is the class that I am. He is saying, I am not a Thatcher. I am my father's son, but I am also a knight. I have earned by right, by deed, to be a knight alongside these same people, regardless of who they are. I earned the place to be here.
And there's an honor amongst being a knight. And he has that honor. And admitting, I lied. Admitting that this is who I am, regardless of what you perceive me as. This is who I am.
And the thing is, they don't care.
They don't care.
But he's going to stand up for it anyway.
Yes.
So he armors up.
And he goes out there.
And
immediately they arrest.
Well, Roland says, well,
I guess we're going out there with you.
We're going out the same way we went in. We're going in this together.
Yeah.
So they all come out. They do the slow walk out. And he's not riding on the horse.
Yeah.
He's not on the horse.
Nope.
He's walking.
He's walking.
Because he knows he's about to be arrested, but he's going to try to enter the tournament.
Yep.
So he walks onto the tournament grounds.
And they're like, no.
The magistrate stops him and
calls out the soldiers to come and get him.
Right. He accuses him, and then they lock him up.
And Rufus.
So he's in his cell, and he's got
like a big piece of wood behind his head.
Well, yeah,
he's shackled to it.
It's a yoke that they use.
Yeah.
Much like you would for cattle in the olden ages, it's a yoke that goes behind the head, holds his arms up, so he's really can't move about too much.
And you can see the privilege here too, because Rufus Sewell's character just walks right in.
Yeah, he walks in. Of course, he's a knight, so he has the ability to get through these things, but he's also royalty.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just the privilege right there that he can walk right into the cell.
So he goes in the cell, and he taunts...
a third time.
Yeah, he taunts William, who remains stalwart, does not give in to the taunts, and...
He beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, he punches him, and he tells him again about his measure being taken.
And been found wanting.
Right. Then he gets placed in the stocks.
Yes.
So he's where the guy was before who said you could change your stars, or you couldn't change your stars. So he's in the stocks, and he's bearing the humility. And did you notice that the person who came up and hit the kid.
The kid was the one that was sitting on the stalks and cheering him on during the parade.
Is now the one that ran up to hit him.
And smacked him the first time.
Right.
But then Roland comes up. And,
with a cudgel.
With a cudgel. And you see Kate and you see Chaucer. But you see...
Kate has her hammers.
Her hammers.
She has 2 hammers.
They're all going to defend him.
I'm telling you, she had a great pose going.
Really did.
She looked like she was
had a D&D character pose right there.
She really did.
Really, like she is a character in a game kind of, but she was going to fuck shit up. But then Alan Tudyk comes out, and like I said, they're all ready to protect him, and he is again apoplectic. He can't make words, and he's just threatening the crowds of people. You know that he's going to bend them and he's so mad.
He's so angry.
Paul Bettany's trying to get, Chaucer, he's trying to get their attention. Paul Bettany got laryngitis from in that whole entire movie, from yelling and doing those.
I wonder how many takes they had to do of that scene alone.
Oh my God, because that one there hurt my throat.
Yeah.
But yeah, because he has to, when he does these addresses and his introductions, he has to be loud. So yeah, he ended up getting...
He's projecting a lot.
A lot. And that's the difference. You got to learn how to project from here and not from here. But yeah.
I project from my toes.
Yes, but it's from your chest, not from your throat, because that's how you hurt your throat. And they all are trying to defend him and keep the crowds, but then...
They are standing around him in a protective format.
Mm-hmm.
They're getting things thrown at them, but they're trying to protect him at all costs. And then there's 3 figures.
And they're all in black cloaks.
Black cloaks.
And they, nobody noticed them.
Very dramatic.
Yeah. And they take off their cloaks, and it is Prince Edward, the Black Prince.
And 2 other people.
And 2 other people. Sir, not named in this film.
I imagine they're retainers of some kind.
Yeah.
Or maybe his men-at-arms or something.
And
but, yeah. It's just 2 other guys.
Sir, not appearing.
They take off the cloaks, and he's like, "Hey, it's me. I'm Prince Edward."
It's a Mario.
And the other 2 are like, "Oh, I thought we were just doing black cloaks."
Oh.
Okay, I feel weird. This isn't our
I guess
scene.
I'm taking mine off now.
So they don't appear again.
Nope, never see him again.
He walks up.
And he says to him, "You did 2 things."
So Prince Edward bends down and looks at William, who used to be Sir Ulrich, and says, "What a pair we make, huh? Both trying to hide who we are, both unable to do so. Your men love you. If I knew nothing else about you, that would be enough. But you also tilt when you should withdraw, and that is knightly." And what he's saying about the tilt and withdrawal is part of how they joust.
Mm-hmm.
Is he will joust him rather than withdraw. Yeah. So it's how they met. And he's saying that is a point of respect that I have for you.
And also the fact that and it can also be a double-edged type of thing where you also came here and admitted that you lied, as opposed to running, which is something you could have done.
Well, yeah, that's he's adding that in as part of being knightly.
But you also didn't.
But that's
let
love.
Me win. Yeah,
that's love there.
Yeah,
he recognized the love of his men. Well, and when they say men, they mean all the people there that are protecting him, including Kate.
Yeah, his people.
And that's part of the love I was talking about.
Yeah,
is that there's that respect, that love of that wraps itself within someone you respect.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Edward is doing. He has him ordered out of the stocks.
Mm-hmm.
And he knights him.
Yep.
Heath Ledger's face when he kneels, I'm like, does he actually think he's being knighted right now? He's giving such a great facial expression performance that I'm just like, he seems like he actually thinks he's being knighted, because he has got this look of bewilderment.
Oh yeah,
on his face, where when he kneels and he's being knighted, he literally cannot believe it's happening to him. And that's such a great scene, because, and I know there's classism here as well, where it takes the benevolence of
a prince. Even then the prince still lies, because he's like, oh yeah, we've just discovered in his lineage. So, they did have to come up, and they did still lie.
It's still a lie.
But it's a lie by a prince, which is going to hold a little bit more water.
Right.
And
yeah, no one's going to gainsay him.
Yeah.
So
then the tournament happens.
Oh, no. Prince Edward says, I will let your opponent know that the match is still on.
Oh, yes, yes.
So, in other words, I'm going to go tell that asshole Rufus.
Yo, Rufus!
Sir Rufus of Roofington.
As he moonwalks backwards, giving him the finger.
I'm going to tell Count Adamar. Or Adamar, I can't remember.
I don't know.
I'm going to tell him that the
tournament's
still on, or the match is still on.
Yes. So suit up, B. And then they go, and they have the tourney. And he gets hurt pretty freaking bad.
Well, here's the thing is, when they're... Rufus, well, Count Adamar is there with his, I'm guessing his squire.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a broken piece of lance. It's the end of his own lance.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, "You sure this is going to work?" And she says, "Yes, it's made of
sponge sugar and boot black.
And boot black, which is to make it look like it's metal. The end that's a fist, that's the blunt end, is hiding inside of it a spike, and he smashes it to show the spike.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Is he doing that for all his lances? Because that seems stupid.
I know.
And why do it on the broken piece of lance? That doesn't make any sense because he hasn't fought him yet.
I know.
So that's a really ham-fisted way to show that they're going to have a cheat on here. But the first round, the first part of the match, yeah, he does. He plunges the lance into the chest or into the arm.
Yeah, and it pierces the armor
of Sir William. I can call him Sir
William now.
Thank God, I don't have to say Ulrich anymore.
And it hurts him pretty bad. And that's when his people pull out Roland. He has Roland pull it out.
This huge
chunk of wood,
piece of wood, which later becomes a very small dime size hole.
Yeah, that hole gets smaller as the movie goes.
Yeah, it really does. It gets smaller. I think they were like, "This is too large. This is crazy. We should not have made it that big."
And so they go for round 2 because the first point then goes to Count Douche Nozzle, and so then round 2, he can't hold up the lance. Sir William can't hold up the lance, and it falls, and he kind of goes backwards, and basically point 2 for round 2. So the only way now for him to win is going to be to either kill or dismount Douche Nozzle.
Right.
So this is where my issue comes in. Out of all this movie, my biggest issue. First he has them take off his armor because he can't breathe. Okay, that's fine. That's not my issue. Okay? He can't hold the lance. So he says to Watt, Alan Tudyk, lash it to my arm. And so he starts tying it to his arm after a couple of, are you sure? We can't do that. And do it. Chaucer sees that they're needing a little bit more time, decides, hey, I didn't get to do my introduction. Now, they told William that his dad and Jocelyn are in the audience. So that's bolstering him to want to do amazing. So he's got to do this. He's got to do this. But he can't hold the lance. So they tie it to his arm. They only tie it to his forearm. He couldn't hold the lance. But yet, when the round starts, he puts his arm where his elbow is basically parallel to his shoulder.
Yeah.
With the lance tied to his forearm. But the wound is in his chest, which would have been right in his shoulder, that he would not have been able to move.
You really have to suspend disbelief on that.
I know, but it bothered me.
I know,
Tying it didn't help. It wouldn't have changed his inability to hold it.
I agree. And it bothered me as well. Especially because holding it out like that is so much harder than it would have if he
held it under his arm.
If he crooked it properly in the cradle, which is what it should have been, he would have found it easier to hold, but he did not have his armor on.
Nope.
So he couldn't really do that. And not having the armor is also extremely
dangerous, but that still didn't bother me as much as...
Yeah. So Chaucer gives the big speech. This is your hometown boy. He's right
Sir
here from Cheapsville.
William Thatcher!
Yeah.
Thatcher! Yeah!
And then they do the final run, and he unhorses
Count Duschnozzle.
It's
easier.
And when he flips, it does this little pause.
Yes.
In which he's
kind of hovering above the ground.
Well, he's unhelmeted. This is kind of like a fever dream he's having as he's falling.
I don't believe this is happening.
Or a comical take.
So as he's floating above the ground, he sees, Roland and Watt and Chaucer and Kate all coming in.
Oh, and William as well.
And William as well. And they all have their heads together above him. And they are all saying the different parts of what he has said to Sir William over and over again. You have been weighed, you have been measured, and you have been found wanting.
And they're all kind of smiling.
And they're all smiling. And then it goes back to him falling off the horse again.
Where he actually falls off.
And in different position with his helmet on. And basically, William wins.
Right.
And it is, the crowd goes crazy.
And You Shook Me All Night Long starts playing.
And he gets Jocelyn in his arms and they kiss. And then the background kind of disappears and turns into a constellation. And then there's Orion. And
our favorite constellation.
Yes, I love everything.
Individually, we both have the same favorite constellation.
Yeah, for me, it's always been whenever something good is going to happen, I accidentally see it in the sky. I don't look for it. I just happen to see it and go,
Sometimes I
Orion.
see it at the end of a movie when something good happens.
And then something good happens. So it's my good luck constellation. But yes, that is the end of the movie.
So let's talk about real quickly, because I know we've talked about it, but let's talk about the music. So we have We Will Rock You by Queen, which starts it out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Lowrider by War. It's used during a training montage where William's practicing to duel. Or to joust, really. Then Taking Care of Business by Bachman Turner Overdrive, played during William's sword fighting matches.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of funny because it's like taking care of business while you're watching sword fighting. It's almost like when we were practicing sword fighting for SCA and would be playing music.
Uh-huh.
And it's completely not...
Unrelated,
unrelated to what you're doing. Golden Years, of course, by David Bowie.
Yep.
Is in the dance scene. Further Up on the Road by Eric Clapton's Heard in a Pub Scene.
Mm-hmm.
Get Ready by Rare Earth, played during a montage of William losing his jousting tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
For Jocelyn's test.
Yes.
I Want to Take You Higher by Sly and the Family Stone,
Mm-hmm.
used when William starts winning jousting tournaments. The Boys Are Back in Town by Thin Lizzy, played during the jousting festival in London. Yeah.
Yep.
And then You Shook Me All Night Long by AC/DC when William wins the final jousting match and kisses Jocelyn on the tournament field.
Yes.
And then We Are the Champions by Queen, played during the end credits.
And in the UK version, it's the Robbie Williams version of We Are the Champions.
Who's Robbie Williams?
This has been an ongoing thing in our house because
it's
we're
an ongoing
Americans.
Thing on the internet right now.
Yeah, because we're Americans. And while I do know who Robbie Williams is, I couldn't tell you a single song he sings, but I know who he is.
I mean, I think I know one of them, which is a rendition of We Are the Champions now.
Now you know it.
He's just not that prevalent in
American
music,
culture. Yeah.
But I know who he is. It's just fun to mess with the Brits right now.
Especially once our daughter works with somebody who was born in Britain, and we were talking about that, and I said, we really don't know who he is, and she gives me this like completely like, how dare you? And then she goes, no, I've been living here long enough. I know Americans really don't know who he is. So I know she just thinks it's funny. Dusty Springfield's Son of a Preacher Man,
yes,
was supposed to be in it, but they cut it.
I know that, and
I'm not even sure where that would have been, where that would have fit in. And so,
I think that was supposed to be when they were in the church.
Probably.
That would have made sense when they were, because they've been in the church a couple of times. I think when they were having the fight.
So in 2012, they were going to turn A Knight's Tale into a TV show.
Right.
In April of 2024, the director, Brian, I can't say your last name, he proposed a Knight's Tale Part 2, which not sure how that was going to work, but Netflix said no.
Yeah, that would have been bad.
That would have been bad. This episode of Once More with Feelings has been brought to you by the word anachronism. um, and however many times we have said that word, maybe we'll have a prize for whoever comes up with that.
Way too many times.
I think we should do that. We do tend to have a word per episode that we just kind of say over and over again. So we should probably do that, this episode.
It is depending upon what we're talking about. And typically it's because we're reiterating the same thing over and over. That in this one, especially because The Knight's Tale has no real anachronisms present, the fact that the movie A Knight's Tale is almost entirely, just filled with anachronisms.
Yeah.
So, I've added 2 more.
Anachronisms. Well, I think that, Sesame Street needs a new home, and I am all for it. Using references to Sesame Street to get people to be a bit more aware of its plight. And that the fact that Sesame Street should be around for children. And if it means I make references, I will say things like, counting numbers and referencing all of the different things. For today, it was brought to you by the word anachronism.
Yeah, you could just say it. You can do the advertisement.
I just like being funny.
I know.
I'm not funny. That's why.
And that's fine. But
also, Sesame Street.
Yes, it should be free.
Sesame Street should be free.
And available.
It should never have gone to cable. It should be free. It should be on PBS, and all children should have access to it. I think that parents don't let their children watch it as often because it's easier to put things on that they know, like Nickelodeon or Disney, and letting them watch those shows. And don't get me wrong, Bluey is the shit. But Sesame Street is generational, and it should
and they need to see things that are not just couched in their own knowledge.
Exactly. And Sesame Street is so diverse. It is so well-rounded. It always has been since the beginning. And every time something new it becomes a thing in society where it's becoming more noticeable, Sesame Street adds it. There are autistic characters. There are queer characters. There is everything you can think of. And this is exposure for children that they need. Representation, my peoples. We've talked about this earlier. Representation is important. So I digress.
Absolutely. I don't think that's a digression. I think that's a progression, because we're talking about, in this movie, classism.
Somehow from A Knight's Tale to Sesame Street.
And the fact that it is very whitewashed.
It is.
But let's talk about some of the differences. There are a lot, but let's just talk about the basics of the differences between The Knight's Tale, Chaucer's writings, versus A Knight's Tale, the movie. So, in The Knight's Tale, we're talking about 2 knights that are not dueling with each other. They're just 2 wounded knights who are captured. We have Palamon and we have Archite. Both of them have been put into prison.
Okay.
They fall in love with the sister of Hippolyta, which is Emily. I know, that's weird, right? Just such a simple name in that tale.
Yes.
So Emily is the focus. That's the love interest.
Yes.
And both knights fall in love with her upon seeing her from their prison. It's love at first sight, only from them. Archite is released. He's banished from Athens. And he returns in disguise. This is kind of playing on that William becoming Sir Ulrich.
Yes.
As Philostrate. And he serves Emily's household. Palamon escapes from prison and encounters Archite in a grove. So they confront each other. And they duel over Emily. And Theseus, who is the Duke of Athens and the husband of Hippolyta. Is it not Hippolyta? Hippolyta. I don't know why I keep saying that wrong. Hippolyta. I think I shorten them sometimes. Anyway.
That's okay.
he intervenes and he arranges a formal tournament. And that is where we get tournament. But when they say tournament, they don't mean we're gonna joust each other.
Mm-hmm.
They mean we're gonna have a small war and kill each other.
Yes.
That kind of tournament. So each knight gathers 100 knights.
Fancy.
And they support them in the tournament. They fight.
Yeah.
And as the tournament takes place, Archite wins, but then he gets like injured by his horse falling on him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's on his deathbed, and he reconciles with Palamon and asks him to marry Emily. Now, there are gods present in this. There's a lot of like God intervention within all of this. So the reason why the horse fell on Archite is because Saturn made that happen.
Okay.
So there's a lot of God. There's a reason why in the movie they put Nike, the swish, which is the Nike shoe wear swish, is on the chest plate. It's a callback to the gods being so prevalent in the Knight's Tale.
Could also be seen as a sports reference because that was their modern
could very well
sports,
be, but also it falls into the gods.
Their gear is always sponsored by.
Yeah, that could be it as well. So on his deathbed, Archite reconciles with Palamon and asks him to marry Emily. And Theseus arranges the marriage of Palamon and Emily, bringing the tale to an end. So that is how that ends, as they live happily ever after.
Okay.
You can tell that the differences are there is a lot less contention. There is no real classism because they don't go beyond the knights.
No.
They don't go underneath it. So they disregard anything else other than knights and their ladies.
Yes.
And the king, not the king, but the duke and stuff like that. So... and gods. Peasants aren't even available in this.
Yeah.
They're not even really a part of this. In A Knight's Tale, it's about classism, and it's about rising above your station.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about love. And that is the tie-in with The Knight's Tale, is it's about love.
Yeah.
And in this case, in The Knight's Tale, it's about, I think, a love that the knights share in a almost familial sense, because knights share that camaraderie in war, and they share a respect for each other.
Yes.
And you find that in A Knight's Tale as well. So just want to throw that out there for the book, or for the part of the book of the Canterbury Tales. If you get a chance, please read it. It shouldn't just be a high school project or a junior high project.
Trust me, you'll understand it better as an adult.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think it's a lot more interesting. And you can get that at any library. Yes. It should be readily available.
If you hear purring, I'm sorry, but I do have a cat in my lap, and he is being very loud.
He is being very lovey right now.
He is, and I don't know how loud he's being. Like, I can hear him, but I don't know if he's picked up on the mic. So
let's see if I have any other notes that I did not go over.
I got it. I hit all my notes this time. No leftovers.
I didn't have any leftovers either. We talked for a long time.
We did. This could be a two-parter if it's long enough, y'all.
No, I don't think it'll be a two-parter. I think I'll keep it as one, because I think people are okay with it being long when it needs to be.
True.
So
I like long podcasts, but that's just me.
I was emotionally driven by the movie.
Yeah.
Much more so, though, than I was earlier in life, because I'm looking at things as a parent now.
True, yeah.
I look at things like what could have been, what should have been. But really what I look at is this is kind of a tale about a son trying to live up to his own idea of things, because his father had the common sense, had the decency to try to give his son.
He gave him up for his own good.
He gave him the best life he could possibly give him.
Because, he knew that, I do appreciate that they didn't show, like, an exchange of gold. Like, he sold him.
Yeah, this was about his son having a life outside of...
Yeah, not expecting anything in return.
He was trying to help change his stars.
Oh, definitely. and being a supportive parent, because damn it, that's what you should be. You should be a supportive parent.
In a lot of ways, I'm going to tie this weirdly. This is a lot like while you were sleeping.
Oh yeah, and having that support.
And that parental love that overrides everything else.
Yeah.
That it's part of a responsible, loving adult to try to make their child.
We should want better for our children.
Yeah.
We should always want them to be better than us. And we should always want them to be happy and healthy and successful in whatever they want to do. Yeah. And, you know, even if whatever they want to do isn't the most highly paying or successful, whatever, if they're happy and they're content, then that's all that really should matter. And you should still be a supportive parent. But that's my personal opinion on parenting.
But not everything about this movie is about contention between class and love and things like that. But we find, you know, the friendships that develop, because they weren't friends necessarily, they were squires together.
Yeah.
But they develop this friendship, they develop more friends, and they find this group, this something they make into family.
Yeah.
They literally, Kate helps forge this group into a family.
Yeah. She really
got the blacksmithing in there. Jocelyn comes in, and she's not the Yoko. Which Yoko's not the Yoko, so we need to get over that, people.
Yeah.
But she is not the reason why they fall apart. She is not the reason why they're together.
Nope.
She is a part of that family.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it's not just about Jocelyn. It's about all of them winning. They all get to win this.
Definitely. Because now, you know, William gets to be the knight. And his dad gets to be proud, and Jocelyn gets to have the relationship, the equal. Really, what she wants is an equality relationship, and she's gonna get that. And Kate's gonna get to
legitimacy.
Yes, and Watt is gonna get his cakes. Because every time he has wanted sweets and cakes and cream puffs and yeah, so he's gonna get.
I don't know that he needs that much sugar, but
that's every time he was always talking about sweets. So I was like, you know what, give that boy a cream puff.
But everybody gets
to win.
It
might change his mood,
and maybe just maybe Jasper gets to find humility. Maybe he develops, much like in The Knight's Tale, this concession that Sir William is an equal and that he can respect him now. Maybe. I would like to think that gives him the impetus to do that. That maybe.
I don't know. Some characters are just incapable of being better.
That may be true, but I think there's a real possibility. He's not written as an archetypal bad guy.
No.
He is an asshole. Yes.
He is an asshole.
He is an asshole, but he is also a leader, and he's also someone who has been in war.
Yeah.
You develop camaraderie through diversity. And William is not the same as him. Yes, he is a classist asshole. But if William can do it, if William has shown that he has the spine, he has to respect that.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to think that maybe they're not going to be friends, but that he respects him as a fellow knight.
Maybe.
I'm adding things to this, and of course, Edward's no longer seen in this film.
So well, he's seen at the jousting.
No, I'm saying he's not seen after the win.
Yeah.
So. Let's do the Castellini test and see if this film fits femininity in any way. If it gives a fair shot to female characters in film.
Okay.
There have to be at least 2 named women characters and at least 5 lines of dialogue each.
Done. Kate and Jocelyn both have at least more than 5 lines of dialogue each.
Kate barely does.
Kate
I have to
barely
say,
does.
Underutilized.
But
Jocelyn does.
Yes.
And Kate barely matches that requirement. Those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about their relationship.
No,
No.
Because they don't talk to each other. Now, Jocelyn talks to her handmaiden about her relationship.
But it's about relationships. So
yeah. So
that fails
no,
right
that
there.
fails right there.
So we don't really need to go on. It already fails.
Yeah. We don't get that very often. We usually manage to eke out a win.
Yeah, I think in this case, it is not about the feminism inherent in the dialogue. It is about showing the lack of feminism.
Definitely.
It's showing a lack of equity in the way that the priest portrays. Because when he shushes them, he shushes her in the church, not him. And she even says, "Do not shush me and spare him."
Mm-hmm. And again, though, we're looking at a movie which, yes, time period wise, that would have been, that's totally normal, da-da-da-da-da. But as a modern movie, they could have done better by focusing a bit more on the female relationships and the female characters. So, yeah, it does fail that because while being true to its time period as a modern written and acted out movie, this isn't 1939 Bachelor Mother where the time period it was in. No, the time period this was in was 2001. They could have done a bit better with those female characters.
Yeah, they could have, but it was driven as an action sequence.
Well, yeah, totally. And it was definitely a Heath Ledger movie. So, I mean...
Yeah. So, it is going to fail the Castellini test. Do I think that makes it bad?
No.
No. I think it just means you have to look for the feminist issues in the film a little harder. And you have Kate to look at. You have Jocelyn, who is a strong woman.
And that they're feminist in their own way because they are breaking the molds in a man's world. I just wish they could have done more.
She's the only light in the entire film. She's the bright colors.
Yeah.
You get to see strong women in the film and just take it for what it is. Sometimes you can't have a Castellini test win.
Yeah, unfortunately. If you would like to watch A Knight's Tale, you can rent it on Amazon Prime for $3.59. You can watch it on Google, Apple TV, and Fandango at home.
Thank you for joining us for A Knight's Tale. It has been a roller coaster. We've talked overly long.
We have.
On it.
We've gone off topic. We've come back to topic. We've managed to tie it into the topic.
But there are a lot of things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So until we meet again, let art be your guide and stay inspired. This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPOD. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to subscribe and rate us on iTunes and in YouTube.
If you get a chance, maybe just drop us a note. We would love to hear from you. Tell us how many times you said the word anachronism. You guys have a good week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Well, you can't eat a flower. A flower doesn't keep you warm.
And a rose never knocked a man off a horse either, did it?
You're just a silly girl, aren't you?
Better a silly girl with a flower than a silly boy with a horse and a stick. Goodbye, then.
It's cold at last. Hello?